President Trump has proposed massive tax cuts and pushed for more business-friendly regulations. I sat down with 3 Bay Area women who voted for President Trump to get their impressions of the first 100 days and their hopes for the future. Joining me now are UC Berkeley student Chiara, California Director of African Americans for Trump, Corrin Rankin, and Alameda County Republican Chair Caro. Welcome to the show, ladies, and thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So to start off, I'd just like to ask each of you a little bit about why you supported Trump and what your impressions have been this first 100 days. And Sue, I'd love to start with you.
Well, I'll be perfectly honest. I didn't vote for Donald Trump during the primary. He's an unconventional candidate, an unconventional situation. I didn't think he was going to win. But when we got to the general election, there was no choice to me. I didn't like Hillary Clinton at all. It was going to be Donald Trump. Okay. So I voted for Donald Trump.
And so far, are you happy with him?
I'm happier than I expected to be, frankly.
Really?
Yeah, I think he's doing some very good things. And I think we didn't see this side of Donald Trump as much during the campaign. The kinds of management skills he brings to the table, how he listens to people, some of the good picks he's making for his cabinet and to lead agencies and so forth. So, yeah.
Claire, how about you? What kind of solidified your support for President Trump, and how would you evaluate these first couple months?
I really appreciated the fact that he was an outsider to national politics and politics at every level. I think that our government for many decades has been plagued by career politicians and bureaucrats that are simply out of touch with the needs and wants of everyday American families and workers. And so to rate his presidency so far, I think that the first 100 days have been really incredible in that they've lived up to the promises that he made during the campaign. He is absolutely committed to the same ideals that he claimed to be committed to during his campaign. And oftentimes we see a reversal once people get elected, and once they hold office, they flip-flop, and the people that supported them are left questioning, why did I vote for this person? I think that Donald Trump is living up to his promise to put America first in a variety of ways, and I absolutely stand behind that.
Corrin, you're a small business owner and a strong Donald Trump supporter, I think from the beginning,
yes,
right? So tell me, are you feeling the same way?
Absolutely. I feel Claire probably took the words out of my mouth. I was excited about his candidacy from the moment he announced that he wanted to run for president. I immediately just threw my support behind him. I liked a lot of the things that I heard during the campaign about putting America first. And as far as his first 100 days in office, I'm happy with what I've been seeing. He came in and hit the ground running, and he's sort of running it as a businessman and sort of running our country in an unconventional way. And I think it's working.
Yeah. So one thing you guys have all hit on is this idea that he's really playing to his base. And I'm just curious, as supporters in a very blue state, if that worries you at all, if you think he needs to have a broader message as he moves throughout his presidency. Corrin, is that something that concerns you?
No, I don't. I don't think that anyone in our country can have a problem with him saying that he wants to put America first. That's what any president of any country should be saying. I think we're not used to hearing it. But once I think people are starting to see him more presidential now versus on the campaign. I feel like I'm seeing the same person that I saw in the campaign, because I've always listened to what he said versus, the rhetoric from, other people's opinions.
Yeah. I'd like to know who his base is. I think that there's a false concept about who Donald Trump's base is. I certainly don't think that the media had a good idea about where the voters were going to come from who were going to vote for Donald Trump. They didn't get it during the campaign. They didn't get it on election night. Right. They haven't had it since he's been in office. So there was a very interesting article that was printed in Politico this week. And the title of it was, There is a Media Bubble, and It's Worse Than You Think. And I don't know if you saw it, Marisa. Yeah. And the idea was that the major media installations or organizations are clustered in the Boston to Washington, D.C. corridor and the West Coast from Seattle to Los Angeles and maybe around Chicago. But they're missing a whole lot of what's going on in America. And clearly they didn't see Donald Trump coming.
So I'm curious about that, because one issue that's come up a lot is coal jobs, and which is clearly important for some people in Donald Trump's base, but it's also a very small, tiny fraction of the economy. And we've talked about more broadly, we're losing jobs in retail. There's a lot of heartache, I think, in many industries around automation and what technology is going to do to our workforce. I mean, what would you guys like to see in that area? I mean, is this focus on coal from where you sit in California a little misplaced, or do you think it's fair?
No, I think that the focus on coal jobs fits into Trump's larger narrative that we need to reinvigorate our country's economy, and we need to be focusing on niche industries as well as national industries. Every single American's job matters. It's not just the industries that are popular on the West Coast and East Coast. It's not just tech. And so I think with Trump's tax plan that he just rolled out, we see a large priority placed on ensuring that businesses have an incentive to bring their money back to this country to employ American workers, lowering the corporate tax rate to incentivize businesses to want to grow. And so ultimately, going back to the America First and fixing America's systemic problems, Donald Trump is placing his largest focus on ensuring the quality of life of Americans. And that ranges from safety to jobs to the economy to foreign policy, lots of different areas of practice. And so I don't think that his focus on coal is limited in scope. I think it's one piece of a larger picture that we're seeing.
Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say, I grew up in Ohio. And when you're in that part of the world, like Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, as recent as 10 years ago, 40% of their energy was coming from coal-powered electricity plants or electrical plants. I used to have conversations with Californians that we have to shut down coal. It's a dirty energy. I'm saying, do you know what will happen to the economy and to people who actually have snow in the wintertime? You know, how are they going? This is not something that can be done overnight. I think he figured that out.
So one area that he has not been able to tackle yet is health care reform. And I know that you've been involved in the Republican Party for a long time. That was a big thing that both congressional members and he ran on. Yeah. Are you disappointed? Do you think that's going to happen?
Oh, I do think it's going to happen. I think just they're very excited, it seems to me, in Washington just today as we speak, because they are putting together an agreement between the two different groups, the moderate Republicans and the Freedom Caucus conservatives. So I think we won't have a vote this week in the 100 days cycle, but I think a week from now maybe, or 15 days from now.
Great. Before we go, I want to ask each of you, what impact have you felt in your life since Donald Trump was elected and became president? Is there anything you can point to that you are already feeling?
Well, I honestly, I feel better about the economy, just, you know, looking at from a national perspective. It excites me to see what, the changes in our national security, that he's putting more emphasis on keeping America safe. Those things they've always been appealing to me, and they're exciting. I'm excited to see this.
Claire?
I'm very hopeful. I'm very encouraged, and I'm inspired. And I'm graduating from undergrad in 2 weeks, so I'm entering into the job market. And I'm feeling a little bit more confident that there's going to be a place for me in the emerging American economy, especially with, as I mentioned, the new tax plan that just came out. So I'm feeling very excited, and I'm very happy.
And how about you, Sue?
Jobs and the economy is probably the #1 issue for most Americans across the country. And if we don't get some growth back into the economy, and we've been, muddling along or muddling through at 1%, 2% growth, if we don't do better than that, people like Claire aren't going to be able to find jobs.
So are you guys on board with this tax proposal he rolled out? I know it's a little skimpy on details still, and we're waiting to see kind of if he has cuts to offset what he's proposing. Otherwise, it would add massively to the deficit. Yeah. Is that a concern?
Well, they still have to work out some wrinkles. For example, the border adjustment tax is a big issue as far as revenue producing on the tax, whatever tax legislation comes out. And I understand there's a lot of Republicans who don't like it in the Senate, probably won't vote for it. So they do have to work out a few more things.
Corrin, I mean, again, you're a businesswoman. Are you happy to see these proposals to really slash business taxes?
I am. California, I recently read an article about the 50 worst cities in America to do business, and California was home to 5 of those cities. So for someone like me, I hope that, as a business owner, I hope that these cuts really help my fellow small business owners, because I think that we get forgotten a lot. We are a big contributor when it comes to being job creators.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. I mean, the corporate tax rates cuts or proposals are huge, but so are ones for sole proprietors, people like yourself.
Yes.
People like Donald Trump, too.
Well, since the wealthy pay most of the taxes, there's going to be, if there's a cut in tax rates, the wealthy are going to get some of those cuts, you know. But they did change, there's a couple of things that they're changing at the lower end that are going to help middle class families as well. Larger deduction, what do you call the deduction? It's the general, yeah.
Standard deduction?
Standard deduction,
Yes.
thank you. I couldn't remember the phrase. This larger standard deduction, higher levels before you get to have to pay taxes. So there's going to be some changes there too.
Great. Well, thank you all for coming in. It's been fabulous talking to you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks for
Marisa.
having